The sun goes down, the stars come out, and all that counts is here and now. My universe will never be the same. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you came.
You are listening to Paramania Radio. Join host Tim Malley as he brings you the most recognizable names in the paranormal field every Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central on Fox Cities Paranormal Radio.
Look in my eyes, what do you see? The cult of personality. KLF is gonna rock you.
Are you interested in the top 40 songs from the 80s and 90s and how they tie into the current astrological chart? Then tune in to the Indigo Weekly Top 40 each week on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on the Paramania Radio Network.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Paramania, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you happen to be in the world. You're listening to Leo Bonomo on the radio show, and we have a very, very special guest tonight, Sarah Tyler Waters, and Sarah is a trance medium. And later on, Master Chou, her spirit guide's going to come in, and you can ring up by all means and ask some questions. Now, Master Chou won't do any predictions, he won't do any personal readings, but if you have any questions on life after death, whatever it may be, philosophy, if that's your thing, whatever it might be, do call in. And you can get us on 919-2950-150, and that's the number for the States, as you probably recognised. Or you can get us, of course, on I've lost it. Sorry. You can get us on Skype, and it's Paramania Radio. Sorry, I'd moved it somehow. So you can get us on Skype, Paramania Radio. So, with great pleasure, I'd like to introduce you to Sarah. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm fine, Leo, and good evening. And as you say, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. All the international people.
Yeah, I can't keep up with all the time zones. I have enough trouble between here and the States, to be honest with you. But there you go.
I'm looking at the clock, thinking it's nearly my bedtime. But there we go.
Yeah, yours and mine. Now, I know in the States, trance has a slightly different meaning. They compare it with channeling, which is more inspired, isn't it? Or inspirational speaking. Explain a little bit what trance is about.
Well, when I talk about trance mediumship, I'm being very traditional here, and obviously in the UK we have a long-standing history with spirit and mediumship. So when I'm talking about trance mediumship, I am talking about the medium being in an altered state of consciousness, and spirit actually blending with us at a physical level and an energetic level. So when Chou comes in, he will literally be coming into my aura, to my physical energy, my mind and my voice, and so on and so forth.
Right, okay, because I think it is something that confuses people. There is that slight language twist from here to the States, but it is something that does get misinterpreted here in the UK, doesn't it?
Very much so. I mean, I was looking at some things only yesterday talking about teaching channeling, and they're describing anything from psychic development to mental mediumship to inspirational. We have a real problem with language, unfortunately, and not fixing these terms with one definition. And it doesn't matter which way you're working as long as you know which way you're working.
Yeah, and again, I think some of that comes down to teaching and the standard of teaching. But you're a teacher yourself at the College of Psychic Studies, a very well-renowned place, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I've been very lucky. I've been there over 10 years now as a teacher. And I started out there as a student, and I did sittings there for over 10 years, so it's a fabulous place to work.
Yeah. It's I've been there on a few occasions, and I've actually been there when you've given a demonstration and Master Chow's given a demonstration, and it's very, very interesting. Can you? We have I have posted it, but can you give us your site URL?
Yep, it's www.voicesofspirit.co.uk.
Yeah, because some of the demonstrations that you've done, they're recorded, aren't they? So people can actually buy CDs and listen to Master Chow talk on all kinds of subjects. Yeah,
because we're quite unusual in that sense that we actually do lectures, and they are defined lectures on a subject. And those are all available as downloads that people can buy, as well as Master Chow runs his own masterclasses and teaches for 2 hours, and he's run his own discussion groups. So, we're quite diverse in the work that we do, really pushing the boundaries on what spirit can do with a trance medium.
Yeah, and I think people would be very interested to learn as well that as Master Chow works with you and through you, that he does conduct his own web chats, etc., as you've explained.
And he has his own Twitter feed.
Yeah, fantastic. Have you got the Twitter URL?
Yeah, it's his Twitter name thingy is the @ Ask Chow.
At Ask Chow, fantastic.
Yeah. So anyone on Twitter, you can go on to that one. He does his own little pearls of wisdom on a Monday, and they're quite fun. Yeah, I have to keep up with him. So I'm very lucky that he wants to interact with people in different ways. That's why we're trying this tonight as a first. Him being live on the radio, so fingers crossed. It's always an experiment with spirit.
It is, and sometimes an experiment with the public as well. I know that people are interested. We used to have a UK number here, and several have asked me for the UK number, and I've had to give them the Skype address so people can interact that way. So some of it, I've got the emails quite late, but they're all done now. So hopefully people will Skype in with some questions, and I can either read them to you or we can somehow get them if we can arrange to hear them on Skype. I think we can. I know there are some callers from England as well that are very interested. So explain to us how you first made contact with Master Chow and how you began to set up working with him.
Wow. I trained originally as a mental medium at the London Spiritual Mission, which was a fabulous place to train. And at the time, I wasn't totally aware that I wasn't doing straightforward mental mediumship because, from the inside, it's all I knew. But some of the students there recognised that something else was going on and kindly took me along to a workshop with a lady who was a trance medium. And that was my first real experience of, this is trance, not mental mediumship.
Yeah.
So I trained, did a bit with her, and then developed the trance mediumship at the College of Psychic Studies. And for a long time, Chow was just the Oriental gentleman in the background.
Yes.
I've worked with a couple of archangels. I worked with this lovely, lovely Tibetan monk that used to talk for hours. He was absolute bliss to work with. And there was this Oriental gentleman in the background. We were just aware of him and didn't do very much. And then one night he decided to step in, introduced himself as Master Chou, and he's never left.
Yes, it's a wonderful it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? It's almost like an old friend from way back that's just kind of reintroduced themselves and never overstayed their welcome, but just overstayed or stayed rather.
That's right. And the angels and the Tibetan monk all disappeared, and it was for quite a while. It was just Chou, and then the oracle, the other energy that I work with, they were again in the background and started to make themselves known, and then they stepped forward more fully, and it was them that wanted to do the lectures. So it's kind of, Chou is my mainstay, and then there's the oracle. Yeah. And there's some other people behind them that haven't yet stepped forward fully. So, it's a constant work in progress, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps everything fresh, doesn't it? Tell us a little bit about the Oracle, because that's a number of personalities, isn't it, that come together?
The Oracle is a collective consciousness, and the information about them is a little bit sketchy. I mean, we know that they haven't done anything with humanity for a very long time.
Yeah.
They are vast in number. We're not talking a couple of dozen. We're talking big numbers. And they haven't all necessarily had human incarnations. So when they first started to come through, they weren't very good at talking to people. They were a little bit dry and, bossy, I suppose would be one way of describing it. So they've kind of asked Chou to help them with how to talk better. And most importantly, they asked Chou, would he teach them how to be funny? Because they really weren't, and they would try to be funny occasionally. It was kind of painful, So he's kind of worked with them to help them communicate better and get a better rhythm. So that's kind of been interesting to watch, because they were very stilted and very stiff when they first came through, and it's really, really developed. And that's why the lectures work, because they can flow and interact with people much better than they could in the beginning. So it's kind of an interesting, dynamic between them and Chou, because he's grown as well.
Sorry, say again.
He's grown hugely from when he first started to come through. He really sounded like a fortune cookie in the beginning. And now, I mean, he has so much more depth and breadth to what he will talk about, and the humour is his trademark. He's very funny. So just to warn your callers, any silly questions may get a raspberry blown at them. So he likes humour. Humour for him is very important. Laughter is very important, as well as down-to-earth information.
Yeah, and that's something that's very much appreciated. I know you've come several times to my circle in South Woodford, and the students very, very much appreciate it. And it's nice that you kind of give that warning, because some students do forget themselves and either ask a personal question or ask something which is quite obvious, or maybe even ask a question that's just been asked 5 minutes ago, and for Master Chou to blow a raspberry, although they're warned, I think one or two of them do get surprised by that and sit back and have a think at.
Yeah, because I think everyone takes spirit, so they have them in reverence, and they always think they have to be so serious and profound, and that's great, and it has a place. But do you really listen? Do you want to listen to a lot of that? You feel sometimes like you're being talked to rather than with. So for him, it's really important that people are listening and engaging with what he's saying. Otherwise, what's the point of going to all this effort? And the one thing with trance, this is an effort. It takes a lot of effort for them and for me to make this happen, and it's got to then be worthwhile.
Absolutely. And I find it very interesting that those the collective known as the Oracle having to learn how to communicate, because I think a lot of people just get the idea, perhaps from mental mediums, and perhaps I'm to blame for this as well, that you tune in, there you go, everything's fine and dandy, and they can communicate well and hopefully pass it on to me, and I can communicate well, because I think often the problem's with me rather than with them. And people get used to supposedly guides knowing everything and having all the answers. And
But it isn't just the information, it's how to deliver it. And because they hadn't worked with humanity for a really, really long time, they hadn't expected us to change from how we were a couple of thousand years ago. So they found us far more interesting to talk to. Our questions were more interesting. So it was almost, they had to just readjust and reassess where we were as humanity, as people who were talking to them, and rethink about how they were then delivering the knowledge, because otherwise it's just data. It's just fact after fact or pieces of information. If it's just thrown at you or barked at you don't listen to it. So he's kind of worked with them on engaging with people so that you do take a lot in. I mean, the lectures contain an enormous amount of teaching, huge amount.
Yeah, and I can testify to that. I mean, I can understand that in a sense from when I was at school. I had one or two wonderful teachers, very engaging, and you loved the lessons, and you did learn and you want to learn. And there were others that were so dry, sometimes irrespective of the subject, that it really just put you off.
Yeah, and if you're put off, you'll never go back. And that's the risk with this, that if you have one bad experience, you will just be turned off of ever going to see spirit talk again, and that's criminal, so they don't want that. They want to engage with people so that, okay, you might not agree with everything they say, you might not accept everything, but you're interested. It's provoking a thought. It's making you come away going, okay, I hadn't thought of that. Well, maybe I can change my thinking, or maybe there's something else they might be able to give me that's more pertinent to me. And it's that they want to create, that intrigue, but also that usefulness.
Yeah, I mean, I find not only do I learn something every day, but I learn a lot from Master Chou as well, because as you kind of intimated, some of the information is quite different from what we take for granted, and that is thought-provoking.
And they're aware of it. Both Chou and the Oracle are aware that they're not necessarily delivering information identical to everybody else.
Yeah.
And that is also a consideration. How do you deliver it? How can you explain why yours is different? And, so there's a lot of delicate manoeuvring around, when to say it, how to say it, when to back off a bit. And also respecting that everyone has a different belief system and a different understanding and is at a different level. And that's quite a juggling act.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I do feel that people get the impression that this is very straightforward, and whilst it may be natural, comes easy. And there's a lot of development, isn't there, behind what we do?
Huge amounts. And it's not just developing how to go into an altered state. It's developing how to keep myself out of it. And evolving myself, because I've done the work on me, I allow him to do more, and that's really key to keep it all moving. He challenges me, I challenge him. I don't take stuff for granted, but equally I cherish it, and it's like, well, hold on, you want to try something new? Why do we want to do this? Let's have a discussion about this. And there's a banter, and there's a dialogue between us that's really important.
Yeah, you've said to me on at least one occasion that you and Chou, Master Chou, are closer than a married couple.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's interesting for people to understand that there is that kind of interaction, and you have to have as much faith in yourself as in him. And this is where the training comes in, because so many people go into this perhaps not in a frivolous way, but really not understanding what's involved, thinking this can be done in a few weeks or a year, and that's that.
And unfortunately, the idea that, that law makes us describe this as entertainment devalues the work that has to go in. I mean, you go and see an acrobat, that's entertainment, but you all understand how much work that person has done to learn that craft. So, there's this weird kind of dichotomy that we're entertainment, but no one expects us to have done any training, or doesn't equate it for the same sort of level of training as the acrobat has done. But it is the same. It's constant, it's daily, it's a lifestyle choice. It isn't just, I'll sit down and do that for 5 minutes, doesn't that look interesting? This is a dedicated lifestyle. It's a choice to make it a vocation.
Absolutely, and I do think people can and do misunderstand that. I think one of the problems now is that being a medium or channeler, trance medium, whatever it might be, is something which is fashionable.
Yeah.
It's something which people also get the idea of, we'll go and train for a couple of months and that's it. So in a sense, I think they devalue what we do as well, because it is a lot of training. I know Reverend Colin Fry refuses to use, or before he passed over, of course, refused to use that tagline of "This is entertainment." I do myself, because again, it's the power of the media, isn't it? It's the skeptics saying, well, it's not real anyway, so it is, like a comedian or hypnotist or juggler, as you say. So, but I do think that's something that we will get past, and we are getting past now. I think it's taken more seriously, but we've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to be careful with how the media portrays us, and people, I often ask, have you seen trance mediumship before? And they go, oh yes, on the telly. And it's like, yeah, I very much doubt it. And then if you've seen it on the telly, they don't understand the difference with the make-believe versions in TV series as opposed to really what we do. So it's difficult to get across the level of skill that actually goes into the training, goes into developing this to a professional level.
Yeah, it's given quite a false image, isn't it? We do have a couple of callers, and we'll take some calls in a moment. Okay. We're going to the break in a moment. So we're going to have a break, and as we have a break, we'll. I just thought of something interesting. What I was going to say was, if we have a break and then Master Chou comes back, I think it would be quite interesting if we come back live and hear you say something, and then maybe, as you say, Master Chou will take 30 seconds to come in. For that to come in.
So we can hear the difference in the voice.
Absolutely, because I know lots of people that listen to this certainly are believers, and I think if we can get that change kind of live, if you like, because one of the things that's so interesting is when we've sat with students and they get used to Master Chou talking, so talking for an hour or whatever it might be, and you get used to him as a person. And I found myself the first time kind of forgot that you had to prepare. So you were there and Master Chou was there, but it's when he leaves and you come round, and I know that you need a minute or two to do that. that's when you kind of really understand the change that's taken place. So I think that would be interesting to kind of do that live. I know that you also do trance healing, don't you? So can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, that's a tricky one to explain. Even I find it hard for myself to articulate it. And most people are aware of spiritual healing, where spirit are relaying the energy through the healer and the healer into the patient.
Yeah.
The difference with trance healing is a spirit being will stand inside the trance medium, exactly the same as Chou is going to do now.
Yeah.
But then other healing energies will transfer the energy to that spirit, and that spirit will put it out to the patient. So they're basically, changing the relay, if you like.
Yeah.
So it does is it minimizes the amount of interference our bodies naturally give the energy, because we naturally slow it down. We can't help it. We're a slower vibration than spirit are. So it's about how the energy is filtered through. By spirit standing within us, they change our vibration, so the energy coming in isn't slowed down as much. So it's just delivering a different type of energy to the patient, to what you would get with spiritual healing.
Yeah.
Again, they both have value. It's for different reasons and working at different levels.
Yeah, because I was just thinking in electrical terms, a normal healer is like a capacitor, which offers a bit of resistance, and the trance healing has much less resistance. So that's an interesting way of putting it.
But also an amplifier.
Yeah.
So the spirit standing within cut down the resistance, but also act as an amplifier, act almost like a capacitor, increasing the energy flow. So actually, I find car analogies and computer analogies and electrical analogies the easiest way sometimes to explain this work.
I know it's kind of, you kind of have to go off tangent to sort of make the point, but and I think certainly in today's age, people understand computers more and they're more savvy in that way, so they can see that analogy in their mind, and it does kind of just click into place, and that's fine. I think something that people may find quite amazing is that most trance mediums will sit down, that they will need that. I know when I get overshadowed or go into very, very light trance, certainly when I was giving addresses, I had to grip the podium quite tightly to make sure I didn't fall over. But you and Master Chou work so closely together that even though in one sense you are completely unconscious, you're not there at all, Master Chou has such a control that he can actually walk around, can't he?
When we do trance healing, then if they're with the patient, they will stand up, they will move around. Yeah. Chow's particular favourite one is moving the chair when we're working. He likes to move the chair. And if I'm on a stage, he particularly likes to move the chair right to the edge of the stage to freak the audience out. So I have come back sometimes to find my feet dangling over the edge of the stage because he's kind of moved the chair forward. But, it's showing the fact that he's physically here, he's physically aware. And that's why it's a slightly different variation on trance to more traditional, because they are coming in that much deeper. They are coming into the physical more, to have more physicalities, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful, and it kind of shows his sense of humour as well, doesn't it?
And remember the fact, of course, that in one-to-one sessions, he will take the person's hands because he's reading their energy, and that would have been taboo traditionally. You never touched a trance medium at all, and that's something that Chou breaks rules about. And it's like, no, that's fine. I can take your hands. It's not a problem. Because that you never did. You never touched a trance medium. And that's been a huge
want talk radio that is hip, exciting, and has amazing guests?
And it's all about the paranormal. Join Sheena Meadow each week on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You'll want to come play with us at the Haunted Playground.
Want a platform for those seeking spiritual awareness? With the sharing of knowledge, this show hopes to inspire and bring others together to share experiences, abilities, and inform, allowing all to share regardless of faith or the path they walk. Tune in every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for The Web Weavers with Sprinkles Nixon. Only on the Paramania Radio Network. Welcome to the all-new Paramania Radio.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Leo Bonomo on the Paramania Radio Show. Very, very, very special guest tonight. Sarah Tyler Walters, a trance medium that has a different kind of ring to it from the States. That is more connected to channeling. That's how you understand the word over there. So we've got her, and her guide will be coming through Master Chou. And what we're going to do live is wait for the change so that Master Chou can step in. He's quite anxious at the moment and really wanting to do that. And we do have a caller, Lynn, and she's calling in soon. So if you do want to call in from the States, it's 919-295-0150. We have another number just for tonight, and it's 919-295-0170. And of course, you can Skype or texting questions, and that's to Paramania Radio on Skype. So welcome back, Sarah.
Welcome, thank you. I'm still coughing. This is him desperate to come forward. So apologies if anyone can hear me coughing in the background. That's his eagerness to get going.
Okay, so we'll give you that chance to come through, and for Master Chou to come through, and then we've got Lynn.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening, Master Chou. How are you?
Well, still dead.
Okay. Yes, as always, thank you very much.
If I was live, you wouldn't be able to talk to me, so this is far more fun.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we've got a caller for you, so we're just going to get a lady called Lynn through. So, hi, Lynn. How are you?
Hi, Leo. I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. It's nice to be able to do this live and have a guide from the higher spheres come through. So, ask your question to Master Chou.
Yes, sir. Can you tell me about the changes coming forth in my life over the next few months?
Okay, did I get that right? Changes in her life she wants to know about?
Yes, Master Chou.
Yes.
Let's have a look. Well, the first thing I would say is you're quite excitable. Do with calming down a bit. You do like to do everything in a rush, in a hurry. And I would say to you, one change you could make that would be good for you is slow down. There's plenty of time for what you want to do. So change you need to make is slow down. Enjoy life more. Changes are mostly around family. Things going on with the other people around. You on a very nice steady path. But you do need to slow down things. You're going too fast. And you're going to miss some of the fun if you keep going like that. You understand?
Does that make sense to you, Lynn?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense.
Fantastic.
So please slow down, Lynn. Yes. Very nice.
Lynn, have you got any questions on the afterlife, or any questions that you may want to ask about maybe passing or anything of that nature?
Yes, I do. I feel my grandmother with me so often, and at times I even have like a sense or a taste in my mouth or a smell of something that she would bake or she would be cooking, and I just like to know about my grandmother.
Okay, I don't do messages from loved ones. That's not my thing. But if you are smelling her scent, then that would very much be something that a loved one would do to let you know she's around. So it sounds mostly like she's just giving you comfort and security, not wanting to leave just yet. But perhaps also it's time you let her go, yes? Let her get on with the things she needs to do. Because you don't need her around anymore, yes?
Yes, thank you.
You know, you've grown a lot since she passed.
She passed about, it's been 30 years, but I feel her so often. I feel her.
That's a lot of you feeling insecure. And you don't need to. You've done a lot of growing. You're a much stronger person now than when she was alive. So you don't need her around so much. You can let her go.
Okay.
Because you're a lot stronger.
Okay.
And you need to have a lot more faith in yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Blessings. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, we have another caller now, area 310. That's the code. So, hi, who's that? Oops, we may have lost. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hi, who's that?
Hi, it's Ani.
Oh, hi, Arnie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, we're doing great, thank you. Have you got any questions for Master Chou? As you said, he doesn't really do loved one communication. He's more about philosophy and questions on the afterlife, that kind of thing. Anything you basically think that you would want to know, because people often talk about their guides and how do I contact them, and the kind of information I'd want to get rather than connections from loved ones. All those questions we have about the afterlife, and people ask about guides and their knowledge and that, and so now we have a real chance to ask. So have you got any questions of that nature to ask?
Let's see. Well, actually, I guess it could be, if there's anything that is that wants to be told to me, or anything to be said.
Okay. Did you hear that, Master Chou? Is there?
I did, and it's a common problem. The idea that you always have something to tell people.
Yes.
And I'm going to throw it back to the young lady going, why do you not think you know enough already? And why do you not trust your own instincts more? If you keep turning to spirit all the time, you are devaluing your own knowledge and your own understanding. you really don't need us as much as you think you do. Yes?
Yes.
Trust yourself more. Listen to your instincts and your intuition. That is your soul trying to talk to you. That's the guidance you need to be listening to. So, if there is something Spirit wants to tell you, it's to listen to your soul. Okay?
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you.
Right? So, you listen to your intuition more, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
I think sometimes we do get to a position where we do rely sometimes too much on mediums and that type of connection, don't we, Master Chou?
Very much so. You always think the dead people know better than you. But you actually have a lot more knowledge and a lot more wisdom inside you that you really don't tap into. Your soul is an amazing resource if you would only just allow it to talk to you instead of always turning your eyes and your gaze skyward.
Yes, I think it's something very sad that we seem to have lost that connection because would I be correct, Master Chou, in saying that years ago when we were perhaps closer to Earth and closer to nature, that we had more of an instinct for that?
Yes, very much so, because there were less distractions and less mental stimulus. So you were much more physical within yourselves and therefore much, much easier to stay in tune with what the soul was manifesting and indeed your own inner voice, that intuition.
Yeah, I can understand very much from my own point of view that it is something that is dulled quite a lot. And I suppose in a way that's why mediumship in that sense has grown, because people have don't seem to have that natural inability to speak with themselves.
See, that is just the lie you keep telling yourselves. Even you said not connected to their soul. No, you are connected. It's much more like a radio, like we are now. Yes, keep turning the dial until you find the frequency. It's always there. You've just tuned it out. It's not severed or disconnected. That's the wrong way to think about it. It's just tuned out. You're just not hearing it, not picking it up. So you need to tune yourself back in to the soul's sound. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, hello, she's still there. Yes, hello.
Have you any other questions?
That covers everything. That's exactly what I needed to know.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you too. Thank both of you.
Blessings. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have another caller now, and this is Cindy. So, hi, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good, Leo. How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Very well, bless you. Have you got a question for Master Chou?
Yes. Do you have any messages for me? What is it that is the most important that I need to know? I've been going through a lot of changes and situation with a ex-boyfriend that's been stalking me, and I'm trying to make a residential move, and I really don't know which direction to go, which direction to move. The right place has just not opened up, and I'm confused on which direction to go to move forward.
Okay, there was quite a lot in there, so let me pick it apart a bit. Okay, firstly, the one thing I would say to you that is very important for you to work on is self-love. The reason you find yourself in a lot of these situations is because you do not value yourself enough. You do not love yourself enough. So first thing, you must start focusing on you being the center of your world instead of everybody else. You give too much. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, with regards to moving, can you give me some sort of geographical idea of where you are, please?
Where I am right now is near Tallahassee, Florida, in the panhandle of Florida.
Okay. I just wanted to get a better sense for geography. Okay. I sense you don't want to move too far, but I think actually you might need to be moving further than you think. It's not a very good vibration there for you. The vibration.
I would like to move. Go ahead.
I was going to say the vibration there is too old. It's too slow. It's too heavy. You need somewhere that is younger and has more community and more life to it. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
So I think you are thinking in the right lines, but perhaps not being bold enough. That you're being a little cautious. So perhaps think a little bigger, think a little bolder. You deserve a move that gives you more opportunity for life. I'm not so worried about the direction, more the type of place. That it's more alive. Yes? Less heavy. Where you are now is too heavy. So you want somewhere where you are is too heavy.
Yes.
It's got a very heavy, very sad energy all around that area. You'd be better somewhere that's more lively. You are quite good near the coast though. The sea does suit you, but you can go inland. It won't be a big problem. But you are quite good close to water. But it doesn't need to be, but it doesn't need to be the ocean, a lake, a river. Either of these would be quite good. Okay?
Okay. Do you see how I find this new place so I know it's the right place for me? Because nothing has opened up, and I've been looking in a big range of areas.
Right. Firstly, that's the problem. You're trying to find the right place. And what is the right place? How do you define the right place? Spirit cannot help you with the right thing. They don't know what that is. So stop trying to find what is right. Take a step back and ask yourself, what do you need? So you need a house or do you need a flat? How many rooms do you need? Do you need outside space? What sort of community do you need? Consider your needs, then focus on manifesting that. You'll find it's a much better vibration than right. Right allows your ego to come in and throw things around and muck things up. And your guides struggle to understand what is right. It's too subjective. So focus on what are your needs. Actually break it down to what you actually need this new home to give you. And bear in mind, it should give you things like security, well-being, community, somewhere where you can be respected. Yes, not just fixtures and fittings. Okay?
Okay.
And then when you have that, then ask your guides to help you, and then look at the map and see where you are drawn. Okay?
Does that make sense to you, Cindy?
Well, yes, but I do know what I want, and I have been looking
yes, but you know what you
want. But I've been open-minded as far as where I go because I'm not trying to close the doors.
Stop. You know what you want. I didn't say that. I said work out what you need. Spirit doesn't work on want. They work on need, because that's what your soul's vibration is. Bring it down to the simple things, the actual fundamental things you need. That vibration will take you to the place you actually need to be. That is the best vibration. So there's too much of the mind going on there. And there's also still a bit of fear coming into the decision. Bring it down to need. It's a much simpler vibration, and then spirit and your soul will manifest that and help you manifest it. Okay?
Okay.
Sorry, Master Chou.
Oh, that's all right. I was just going to say there was one other remark in amongst your original question with regards to the gentleman. And I just want to say, do remember you have a doorkeeper, and you can be asking your doorkeeper a bit more for protection, particularly from that man's energy. Okay? Because physically you are doing all the right things with regards to him, but energetically you can be asking for more assistance from your doorkeeper. And it's just turning around and just holding the intention that you're talking to your doorkeeper and asking him to protect you from the energy coming from that particular man. Okay?
Okay.
To give you a bit more sense of security. Because you deserve that. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Bless you, Cindy. Thank you very much. And it's very interesting, Master Chou, isn't it? Because we as humans, if I can use that term, we always get mixed up those two words, need and want. We take them as interchangeable, don't we?
But they're not. They're very different vibrations. And want will always lead into your ego. Need is the vibration of the soul, and that is what should be doing all the manifesting. That's what knows what it's doing. So need is soul, want tends to be ego, like tends to be your personality. So you can like something, but you may or may not get it. But if you want it, then you're creating that from ego, which means you're pulling yourself further off your path. And at some point or other, that's going to not be a good thing, even if it looks like a good thing in the beginning.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And if I take that down to a very basic level, and do tell me if I'm getting this mixed up, it's like wanting a cake, and you can eat as much as you like, but you will put on weight. It tastes nice, but it's just not good for you at all.
No, absolutely. But you can like a slice of cake and thoroughly enjoy it.
Yes.
But you need food.
That's the thing, isn't it? That is the thing. Okay. We do have another caller. I'm just going to see. We have about 3 minutes. Actually, we will take another caller. So, who's there? It's Nell. Hi, Nell. How are you?
Good evening, Leo. How are you tonight? Good evening, Master Chou.
Good evening.
Well, I'm very, very well, Nell. Thank you. Thanks for calling. Have you a question for Master Chou?
Yes, Master Chou. What do I need to do to develop?
Can you be more specific? There's lots of things in your life you could develop. Which one is it you want to focus on at the moment?
Clairaudience and clairvoyance.
Okay. So basically you are talking about mental mediumship.
Yes?
Okay. Mental mediumship is best developed with a teacher, ideally in a circle, so that you have the group energy supporting what you are doing. If you're trying to do it alone, it's always a much slower process. So firstly, find yourself a good teacher and a good group. And remember, ask your guides to help you find it, yes? You'll be thoroughly thrilled to be doing that. So you can always ask them to give you inspiration or help you know where to look for it. Once you find a good group, then be patient with yourself. You're a bit impatient. Also, don't determine which one you want, because you will develop clairaudience or clairvoyance depending on your own natural ability rather than your desire. If you chase one and it's not your natural level, you will make it much harder to open up the others. So don't be open about it. Accept all of them however they want to arrive, because that's how you will learn. And actually you're far more visual, I feel, than auditory anyhow. You're quite creative. Pictures would sit much better with your energy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Unfortunately, spirits have been giving me hearing tests for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I keep having what I classify as hearing tests from spirits for the last 3 years, so I assume that they're wanting me to learn to develop clairaudience.
Okay, tell me what happens in what you're calling these hearing tests, because that doesn't make sense.
I hear a noise, and when I acknowledge it, it goes away, so I assume it's spirit.
Okay, that's not then trying to get you to do clairaudience. That's just letting you know they're there. That's going to be your guides, just letting you know they're there. Is it quite a high-pitched sound?
It varies.
Yes. Guides sometimes...
But it always goes on acknowledgement.
Sorry, it always goes on?
It always goes once acknowledged.
Yes, that's going to be your guides. That isn't going to be about them wanting you to develop clairaudience. That's more your guides letting you know they're around.
Okay, I appreciate the help.
Because if they wanted you to develop the clairaudience, that wouldn't be a very good way of showing you they wanted to do it. So guides will often do that to let people know they're around. Okay? But as I say, go and join the group and allow the clairs to develop as they need to. But actually, I think your clairvoyance will be quite good.
Thank you, Master Chou. Much appreciated.
Okay? And good. Tell your guides you know they're around. They don't need to keep making the noise.
Okay, I will do that from now on.
Okay? And start to get to know your guides. That's the other trick here. You want to be a medium, start talking to the people who are helping you.
Okay.
Because the main guide is shaking his head at me and she doesn't talk to us.
I don't know how.
You just turn around and say hello. It's not that difficult.
Okay, thank you.
You don't need to stand on one foot and tap a tambourine. You just have to think it in your mind. Dear guide, hello. Okay? You're designed to communicate with your guides. Otherwise, their purpose would be ridiculous. So there's no big skill to talking to your own guides. You are designed to be able to do it. You just have to trust and believe that. And work with them to build up a relationship. You'll find it very rewarding if you do. And you're another one to talk to your doorkeeper a bit more. Yes?
Pardon?
You're another one who could talk to your doorkeeper a bit more, asking for a bit more protection.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, from other people's energy. You're very sensitive to it.
Yes, I am.
So that's doorkeeper and learning how to manage your own energy. Things you should learn in a good development circle. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Nell. Bless you. Master Chou, we're just going to go into a break now and for a few minutes, and we'll be back straight after that. Thank you.
Have you ever wondered what's behind the open door? Then tune in with hosts Maggie Renee and Vicky Johns every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Only on the Paramania Radio Network. There's a show where you can learn all about the Ghost Box.
Is there an anger spirit here?
How to use it. What results are paranormal researchers getting? And sometimes, what to be wary of. Hosted by Jenny Stewart and David Erickson. This show is for mature audiences only. Come join us and find out what the spirits are going to tell us next. Distorted Frequency. Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. On the Paramania Radio Network.
Welcome to the all-new Paramania Radio.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Leo Bonomo on the radio show. We've got a very interesting gentleman here, Master Chou, and is a guide to Sarah Tyler Waters. And Master Chou is giving us some enlightenment on various subjects, and very engaging he is too. Hi, Master Chou. Welcome again.
Hello.
Hi. We did put out some feelers for people to ask questions, perhaps more of a philosophical nature or more about spirit in some sense. And, of course, some have asked about personal situations and that. But can you give us some of your views or your experiences perhaps on reincarnation or progression in spirit, and maybe even what it's like to pass? Because these are things I think that people tend to want to ask about.
Well, that covers a lot of subjects, doesn't it?
It does.
Let's start with the easiest one, which is about passing.
Mm.
And you have to differentiate out that you are a dualistic being. So you are a soul who goes back to spirit, and you are a physical body that eventually decays back into your own earth and your own ecosystem. Yeah. So actually the two different parts of you have slightly different experiences, because the soul will predominantly always have a peaceful experience with passing. Mm-hmm. The physical body generally has a peaceful experience right at the final moment, but that isn't always the run-up to it. Sometimes there can be stress or tension, even distress in the physicalness, in the muscles, the bone and the sinew, that sort of thing. But the overwhelming sense that comes from the soul can almost be like a euphoria that overrides that in the final moments. So even if the physical body is suffering up to the moment of death, in the very final moments, the euphoria, the bliss almost created by the soul tends to supersede most of that. So passing tends to be, we cannot say it's every single passing because there are always exceptions, but for the most of them, it is a very peaceful thing in that final moment.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people are very concerned with, and again, I think the idea of it does get twisted by religion, this idea of heaven and hell, and that to me that just causes more stress and anxiety for people.
Yes, indeed, it can create a lot of fear in the person prior to passing, which then puts the physical element under an enormous amount of stress that it does not need. Because the reality is there is one place, you all go there.
Yes.
That's it. There's one place, that's it. All the souls go there, and it is what the soul makes of it. So it is initially what the soul is expecting. Otherwise, it would be a terrible shock. So if you are expecting a set of pearly gates, you'll see a set of pearly gates. If you're expecting, I don't know, big fields and big daffodils, you'll see big fields and big daffodils. It will then slowly morph into the reality of it with the help of spirits working with the soul to help the soul adjust. Because it's a big shock to leave this physical life in this physical body and come back into the spirit in an instant. Bear in mind, it's an instantaneous. It's so fast. We have to, be a little bit gentle with what they see when they arrive. So your belief systems manifest a lot of what the soul initially experiences, and then we very quickly, as soon as we can, get them out of that and into the more truthful nature of what reflection is like.
Yeah, I understand that perfectly, and I think it's something that many people don't. I read a book on, I can't remember who wrote it, but it was about 1,000 near-death experiences. And you've confirmed really what was said in this book, that if you happen to be Catholic and a great believer in Jesus, then you see him. If you're a Muslim or a Buddhist, then you tend to see icons or people connected with that, and it is very much a comfort, isn't it, in those initial moments?
Equally, if you're an atheist, you see nothing. That is your comfort. So belief and your belief systems affect those initial moments of the soul coming into reflection. So we adjust for that, though. Remember, your guides are aware of your belief systems. So they are prepared for you in that moment. So they catch you, they come and meet you, they gently take you out of it as quickly as possible. But some people like to linger in their own creation. We have to work a little bit harder to get them out of it. But we always do it at the soul's own individual pace.
Yes, I've been watching some conversations on YouTube. I'm not sure whether you yourself are familiar with that.
It's a video thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, and there's a doctor. I can't think of his name now, but he seems to have the knack of being with people that have near-death experiences that are quite hellish. They're seeing hell, and when you look at that, it's more of the religious slant that's affected them.
But also, don't hang around with that man.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a degree of what is he manifesting? What is his desire here? How is that coloring the experience of everybody at an energetic level, at almost a subliminal level? Is there a suggestion, auto-suggestion going on of an expectation of what they might experience that he is heightening, whether he is doing that knowingly or unknowingly?
Because I found that very interesting, that he was attracting that kind of phenomena.
But is it attracting it or causing it? Is it cause, is it effect? Which side of the coin is he? And again, he could be doing it without being aware that he is doing it, because this is the problem with cause and effect. If you have an interest in something, you attract that thing to you, which feeds the interest, and so on and so on. But you have to understand that to recognize the dynamic. If you don't, you think, oh, these people keep coming to me, I must need to do this, instead of your own curiosity is what's attracted them in the first place, and there is nothing for you to need to do.
Yes, I read an interesting blog quite some years ago, and this man was a complete skeptic, and he had a near-death experience, and basically what he wrote was that There was nothing. It was darkness. There was absolutely nothing there. And of course, he'd seen it. It's true. And I did write into him, and I pointed out to him a very significant fact, that he was actually aware of nothingness.
Which meant he was aware of something.
Exactly. And I never got a reply.
No, of course not.
Not surprisingly enough.
Equally, let's just deal with the idea of skeptics. Because the one thing I find very fascinating about humanity is you don't understand the part they are playing, the role, and how valuable they are. Because if you were all open-minded believers, you'd never ever work anything out.
Yes.
There always has to be an opposite and equal. So for all of you that are very open-minded, you need a skeptic to balance out the energy. They are serving a very important role. And it isn't about changing them or convincing them otherwise. It is about allowing them to act as a balance for those who are open-minded and believe everything. You have to have the skeptic who believes nothing to create balance.
Yeah, I never tried to convince anyone myself, because, again, I realise, as you do, that there needs to be a counterbalance. You know, it has to be that way.
Actually, a lot of open-minded people could do with some skepticism. Because at least the skeptic has discernment.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important for anyone who wants to do any sort of spiritual development or mediumship development. You must hone your discernment and not just believe everything on blind faith. That leads you down the rabbit hole.
That certainly does. I have this conversation with my students at different times, because not only from the point of view of them developing and giving messages, but also for themselves, in that we have to test everything that we do, because a certainty or an acceptance of this isn't something that usually hits you all at once. The evidence comes over many years, I've found.
And you should keep reevaluating.
Yes.
Because that way you are challenging your own beliefs, and then you can see how they are getting in the way, how they are becoming limiting.
Yes, yes.
But that's about personal development. You can't really do these spiritual practices if you aren't developing yourself as a person as well.
Yes, and I think that is something that sometimes mediums themselves get lost with. You know, I've developed, that's it.
Yes.
I find myself, I learn something every day, and what I learn mostly is how little I know. And so it's a wonderment to me still.
But isn't it meant to be like that, though?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's more fun when you don't know everything.
Yeah.
I always say that humanity's fascination, spirit know everything. No, we don't. It's much more fun that we don't know everything. Collectively, the entirety of spirit, I should imagine we know a vast amount and pretty much nearly everything. But each individual one of us doesn't have that knowledge. So we have limits to what we know and we understand based on our experiences, which feeds back into your question about reincarnation. The whole point of reincarnating, of having these many physical lives, is to grow, to evolve as a spirit being. So we've all done different things, so therefore we have all evolved to different points. We're all trying to evolve to the same sort of points, but we're all doing it in different speeds, at different levels. And we love that. We thoroughly enjoy that. We don't want to all be the same.
No, it's because there are some beliefs, and I think it's connected with religions again, that we can incarnate back into animals or degrade, and that just isn't true, is it? There's always progression forwards.
And you have to be incarnating into a being that can hold the level of consciousness your soul requires for its own growth. And you cannot come into a life form that has a lower level of consciousness.
Yeah.
So no. we incarnate into human beings because you can hold a certain level of consciousness.
Yes, yes. We have a question, Master Chou, and it's from Charmaine. And she says, Master Chou, may I ask, are we judged when we return to spirit, i.e., if we are cruel or kind, how we lived our life?
You only judge yourself. You are not judged by spirit. The guides who are there helping you are helping you see that. So if you come from a belief system about guilt and sin, you have to work through that for yourself. But it isn't coming from us. We do not judge you for anything you have done. We appreciate everything you do as learning. It's all of great value. So no judgment from spirit, but as we were saying, with you might see pearly gates and so on and so forth, you may judge yourself.
Yes, yes.
But we will work to get you out of that.
Yeah, it is. And I think, again, depending either where you live culturally, that affects that a lot. I myself was brought up Catholic, not completely strictly Catholic, but I was blessed with being connected to spirit from an early age, or being aware. And so I had a healthy questioning of what I knew from spirit and what I was seeing from the altar. Yes. But a lot of people don't, do they? I suppose in a way we're brought up either conditioned or brainwashed, aren't we?
Well, brainwashed is an unfortunate turn of phrase, but I understand what you mean. The thing is that what you have to understand is that as humanity has deemed itself to evolve, you have created things, and what you have created is a collective consciousness of your own making, of humanity's own making, nothing to do with spirit. Mm-hmm. And often people talk about connecting to this collective consciousness, believing it to have something to do with spirit. No, it doesn't. It's your own creation, your own thoughts, finding other thoughts that are like attracts like, yes?
Yes,
so
yes.
There is a consciousness that affects all of humanity, which is this collective one you are all part of. It's slightly like bees in a hive. You all have a connection to this one consciousness, and you aren't aware how much that affects you. And your society is another layer of it. You have these layers, these constructs that manage and limit your behavior, some for the good reasons, some not for such good reasons. So the brainwashing often comes from these constructs rather than a conscious level of humanity itself.
Yes, absolutely. I heard a long time ago, and I can understand the meaning behind it. People have talked of nations or countries also having karma, as well as the individuals within them and individuals across the world. Does that make sense to you? Is there reason to that, or is
it difficult? No, because this is humanity's misunderstanding of karma. Karma is simply the law of cause and effect.
Yeah.
Which basically just means at some point you will have done everything.
Yes.
That's it, really. One day you will be on this side of it, the next day you'll be on that side of it. Everything has to have a correlation. Yeah. Karma is merely telling you that you will do all of those things. So don't judge any of them.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I do talk to people sometimes, and we touch on reincarnation, and they have been quite shocked and said, well, you know, I don't think I would have murdered anyone. It's not in me. And I have tried to explain that, yes, of course.
At some point, you know, you all wander around talking about how old you are as souls. But then you want to, on the other hand, say you've never murdered anybody. Well, I'm sorry, those two statements do not go together. One thing about humanity is you slaughter each other on a regular basis. You've done this either through war or through necessities, you know, the actual survival of oneself. So you've been slaughtered through all sorts of reasons. At some point in one of your past lives, you will have taken a life.
Yes.
Whether you have done that through the duty of a soldier, that's one experience. Another life, you may have taken it simply because you wanted to.
Yes, exactly. And of course, perhaps not even as a soldier, but in defense of your children or home or your own life.
Yes, or simply because the other person upset you. Because those are the different reasons why you might take a life. So at some point, you will do it for all of the various reasons. Because bear in mind, culturally, a lot of your cultures had an executioner. Well, that's another way of dealing with death. So that's another side of the coin.
Yes, I suppose in a sense it's a way of passing the buck, isn't it? We want that constraint, but not to do it ourselves. And it's interesting.
That's the point, and that's the thing with karma. Karma is trying to tell you, don't judge it. Don't judge the people who are doing it now, because in one life you've done it. Because so many of you tap into the fact that you were Native American Indians. Yes, but they're killing each other left, right, and center.
Yes.
Their tribal battles could be horrific, and this is before the white man came. They always fought over the land. There were terrible wars between the different tribes. Some lived very harmoniously, some had very good rules, and others just killed because they could. But you all believe you are Native American Indian until we point out the fact that you took a lot of life. Oh, no, that wasn't me. You cannot do them both. It's the same with the Egyptians. The Egyptians led lots of people to their death for one reason or another. Most of these historical things you are seeing through rose-tinted glasses. Nobody wants to have a past life as an executioner, but somebody must have done, because you have historical record of all these people who have been executioners, but none of you want to have been that person.
But people tend to want the rosy side of it, don't you? I was incarnated as Cleopatra.
Yes,
wonderful.
Yes. Vessel often jokes about how many Cleopatras she has met. Yes. But you can't all have been her. And quite frankly, I'm surprised any of you want to have been her. She didn't have a very good life.
Exactly.
Only in the big glossy, what do you call it? The cinema thing.
Yes.
She had the big glossy life. In real life, she didn't have a very glossy life at all.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And what chance does the rest of civilization have?
Absolutely. Master Chou, we're just going to have a quick break and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay.
left is gonna rock you.
Are you interested in the top 40 songs from the 80s and 90s and how they tie into the current astrological chart? Then tune in to the Indigo Weekly Top 40 each week on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on the Paramania Radio Network.
Tune in to the Chris and Wayne Show every Thursday night at 8 o'clock on ParamaniaRadio.com. Hop aboard the Haunted Ship of Doom and join Captain Chris.
It was the government secretly outside of the studio.
Skipper Wayne.
I think it's time you get the Kraken out of your butt.
Deck Wench Joe.
Yeah, I got stuck on the corner.
And of course, Cabin Boy Todd.
Oh, look where I'm sitting.
And always remember our motto, don't just listen to the mayhem, be a part of it.
Welcome to the all-new Paramania Radio.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
Welcome back. Very, very special guest or two, Sarah Tyler Waters, but we are talking now live, and I know that may seem funny to some, to Master Chou, who usually greets the question of how are you with still dead. So it's wonderful. We have a question, Master Chou, and as far as intelligent species in the universe or other planets, and have humans always been on Earth, or did we evolve elsewhere?
That's a difficult one to answer, because you're assuming human is the only intelligent life as a form itself, and of course that isn't true. There's been other intelligent forms of life. I think this comes down to the question where people seem to be convinced that humanity must be born from aliens because of things like the pyramids. And this always, I find that very sad, that you don't believe enough that humanity is capable of such great things, that it had to be an alien who come down and showed you how to do it. And the truth is, you are able to do far more than you can now. You slightly dumbed yourselves down, to be honest, because of technology and other things. You aren't tapping into the intelligence you innately have, which is why people think, oh, well, we can't have always been here. We have to have been somewhere else. But no, you've just been here. Humans, Earth.
Okay, because there is a sense, isn't there, of us invading space or being in space when actually we need to keep here. So how would...
I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think part of man's evolution, humanity's evolution, is pushing boundaries. And I think space is a boundary to be explored, but it has to be done with respect. And this, sadly, is where humanity has gone wrong. You haven't respected space. And that's why you have so much garbage up there, to the point that very soon you won't be able to go into space anymore because it'll be too dangerous, because of all the rubbish you leave up in space that's just circling the planet.
Yes, apparently there is a company which, for huge amounts of money, will salvage metal from the hundreds of thousands of tons that circulate. It's not only are we polluting the earth and the oceans, but we're polluting
your own little bit of space.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is really rather silly. Because actually, humanity could learn a lot by going into space. Not to meet other life forms and like your fantasy movies would have it, but actually to have greater appreciation of who and what you are. and greater appreciation of the Earth itself. There's one thing, if you ever have an opportunity to talk to an astronaut, structurally, being in space changes their physiology. And the more they go into space, the longer they are there, subtly those changes become more evidentiary, especially when you look at their energy.
Yeah.
And actually, when they come back to Earth and they readjust to Earth, they are so more anchored to it because they have respect for her. Because they've seen her in all of her glory. They've stepped off her for a moment and can reconnect, very truly reconnect. So actually, space exploration shouldn't be about what you find. It's about what you come home to.
Yes, because I know when we saw the first pictures and the first people into space, as well as their reaction from the moon and from the first people seeing the Earth, well, it was quite amazing, wasn't it? You know, to see the Earth in all its beauty and how thin the atmosphere actually is.
Yes, but also to marvel at something man could only imagine.
Yes, yes. We have a question before another listener comes through, and you were talking about the way that it affects the body. Is that gamma or other types of radiation affecting the genome? Is that what you're talking about, affecting their energy?
Well, it's many things. It's the radiation that's ambient in the background noise of space anyhow. What your atmosphere filters out the radiation from the sun, for instance. So that's relevant. But also it's what it does to bone density.
Yes.
You actually lose bone density when you don't have gravity. So it's a collection of things that affect the men at a physiological level as well as a psychological level. It's why going into space is such quite an awe-inspiring thing to choose to do, because you have to live with the consequences of it.
Yes, I see. We've got a caller now, an old friend of mine, John West. So we just see John. Hi, John. How are you?
Hello, Leo. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, John. I'm very well.
Good. And hello to Master Chou as well.
Oh, good evening.
Hello, how are you? Yeah, I've just got a couple of quick questions. One, how does Master Chou, any advice for me sort of over the next year? And the second question was regarding reincarnation. If you don't want to come back, can you choose not to?
Well, bear in mind, it isn't you that does the choosing. It's the spirit being that the soul belongs to. So the soul that is within you may never reincarnate. But it's the spirit being that ultimately makes that choice. But the fragment that you are, if that really doesn't want to come back, then that can be accommodated. But generally, by the time you've gone through reflection and gone back into the spirit being, the desire not to reincarnate has dissipated anyhow.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's good to know. And then, as I said, the other question was just sort of any sort of general advice for me, sort of perhaps over the next 12 months, sort of spiritually and stuff.
Well, that depends what you mean by spiritually.
Well, sort of my way my life's progressing, sort of career-wise and things like that, because I am sort of involved in the sort of media and sort of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of write articles for magazines, I do a bit of TV work and things like that.
Okay.
So I just wondered how that was going to sort of pan out, you see.
I have to say, what I keep being drawn to actually is your health. Are you taking care of yourself?
Yeah, I had a bit of neuralgia recently, but for touch wood, that's fortunately gone. So just one of those things, I'm afraid. But sort of generally health-wise, I feel okay at the moment.
Okay. Because interestingly enough, that's the one thing that comes first and foremost to me, is to make sure you take care of yourself.
Oh, yes, I live on my own, you see, so I suppose I should take care of myself a little bit more, but I do try to eat well and take all the right vitamins and stuff and have exercise.
But taking care of yourself is more than just nutrition. It's also social interaction. It's also joy.
Right, I understand. I should do a bit more of that, I see, yes.
So it's health as in the whole well-being of your life. It could do with being richer.
Yeah, yes, certainly. I agree with that, yeah.
So first and foremost, or embrace life a bit more. You do a lot for the dead, and that's lovely, but do a little bit more living yourself.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, I understand.
So I would say for the coming year, consider what it is that brings you joy. And are you doing enough of that? And if you aren't, why not? What's holding you back? Because I can see you being quite a recluse if you're not careful.
Yeah, I do spend a lot of time on my own. I'm afraid, living in a flat in a sort of a town that's a bit quiet at night, it can get a bit sort of lonely at times. So I do understand where you're coming from.
So that, for me, would be the one thing I would say in the next year, consider how you can change that. Because
I understand, great.
Work-wise, I don't have any issues. There's nothing coming up. There's no energy there to consider that isn't ticking along nicely. But if there's no reward, if life isn't rich and it's not full of joy, then is it really worth it? And it's not. Live more, okay?
I understand, yeah. Okay then, great.
The work that all seems to be ticking along, there's nothing sticking out that wants my attention. So that seems to be quietly doing its thing that it needs to be doing. So really the focus is on you and getting more out of life.
I understand. Okay, that's great advice. I'm off out tomorrow to see a Star Trek film, so that's sort of socialising a bit more, so I'll try to do a bit more of that.
But are you going along?
Oh, no, I'm going with a friend.
Good. Very good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Go and enjoy the movie. Have a little bit of fantasy, but make sure you also have some conversation.
Oh, certainly, yeah, certainly. I'll do that as well. Obviously not while the film is on, because they'll probably throw us out, but...
You're a bit starved for conversation. You're a bit starved for intellectual challenge.
Yes, that'd be right, certainly, yeah.
So those you could do with, I don't know, whether you need to join some groups where you can do discussion or talk. You've got a lot in your mind and you don't get to say it.
Yeah, that's right, I understand, certainly, yeah.
More socializing, more networking, I think they call it now. More interaction with people. This would be very good for your mental health as well as your physical health.
All right. Thanks very much for that. I appreciate that.
That's all right. Thank you for a good question.
Oh, thanks very much.
Bless you, John. You take care now.
And you. Thanks very much. All the best.
God bless. Master Chou, one thing that came up when we were talking one time with the students, someone asked the question about reincarnation and how many lives you had. Mm-hmm. And as I remember, it was over 18,000. And people do the maths, and they think, how does that work? And I've tried to explain to them that because you don't have time, that you can incarnate or bounce all over and do that. So would you like to explain some of that for us?
Well, two things are at play here. Firstly, for spirit, time does not exist. We don't measure it like you do. Our time is spherical rather than linear. So for us, everything is happening simultaneously. So now I'm in physical vessel. I am in your timeline. Yeah, but when I go back to spirit, I am in our timeline, yes, our spherical time. Two different experiences completely. So the lifetimes don't necessarily run in a linear fashion to a timeline that your students are trying to understand.
Yeah.
Also, as we were discussing earlier, humanity has been around for a lot longer than people think, at a level of consciousness suitable for spirit to blend with them. Yeah. So actually, historically, you don't credit yourselves with having been around as long as you have. That's another problem. And also, some of those lifetimes would have been very short, would have been almost in and out. So if they're trying to count one every 100 years, well, that maths doesn't work. In 100 years, at some point, I may have done 9 or 10 lifetimes because I'm coming in and out very quickly. I'm not actually touching the earth, or I'm coming in as a child and going again very quickly.
Yes, because as we discussed during the break, Tudor times or prior to that, 40 was a good old age, wasn't it?
Yes, very much so. So in Europe, you tended to live 40. A lot of women, though, would have died in childbirth. So actually, for a female to reach 25 was quite old. So it depended which sex you were in each lifetime, also to what your life expectancy would be. So it varies from life to life. So really trying to do the maths, it's not worth it. It'll just make their head hurt.
Yes, it certainly made my head hurt as well, trying to explain to them. We also talked during the break about the Asian continent and them generally living longer anyway in China, where you would have lived.
Yes, a lot of Asia would have lived longer than Europe, and still does, actually, across the population. Age-wise, you are catching us up now. You're living longer here in Europe. You are pickling yourselves virtually to keep yourselves alive. So they would have stayed alive longer to do with the environment and their balance with the ecosystem. So a lot of the Asian and Asian subcontinent lived seasonally, lived off the land, and lived in sync with the ecosystem. That's something Europe lost a long time ago.
Yes, indeed. I think as we've traded even... I was watching a program a few weeks ago, and they were talking about Stone Age man, Bronze Age man, and Bronze Age man having pottery that come from another part of the world. So there was movement even then, you know, and
very much a migrant population in that sense.
Yes, that's the word that I was trying to get. So you know, we were dealing with other cultures from there, and it's something I think that I suppose it's made the world in one sense through experience, but certainly degraded it in a spiritual sense.
But if you look at Asia and the Asian subcontinent, they didn't travel. A few traveled, but the vast majority of the population stayed put. And in fact, were very locked to the land that they were born onto. And that's another reason why their cultures have lasted longer, and they physically also last longer.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. I'm trying to think of another question that we can ask in the few minutes or so that we've got left. But I realised that it would be very interesting for people to hear again the difference between yourself and Sarah. So is it okay if I say good night to you and thank you so much for bringing light and enlightenment to us?
Oh, that's all right. I don't mind. I'll go now. And I'm not so sure about the enlightenment. I'm just an old man sharing what I know. But thank you for considering it to be enlightening. I think a lot of the time I'm just glad if somebody has listened. But hopefully the people at home who are listening will get some value from it at some point in their life. So we wish them all well. And on that note, then I say goodbye and God bless.
Goodbye, Master Chou. God bless.
Hi, Leo.
Hiya. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. We've got a few minutes left to talk, and we've had because you won't remember this, of course. We've had a few callers, and that's been really nice. And yeah, and Master Chou again, very enlightening, lots of knowledge. So it's been a real pleasure to speak to him and to have you here. Some people might ask, is there a difference between Master Chou entering and you making that accommodation, and how do you feel as he leaves, bearing in mind you've had lots of years of experience?
Yeah, I probably notice the leaving more than I do the arriving. And it takes a little longer to leave than it does to arrive.
Yeah.
Because by then both of us are a little bit tireder and we've used up a bit of energy. But yeah, I'm so used to doing it, I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
It's second nature in that sense.
Yeah, and I think it's excuse me, it's quite impressive to see that live, as it were, and so you go through that transformation because whilst we've got a picture on Facebook, etc., of Master Chou, what doesn't come across when he comes in and you hear the voice change is that your features physically change and people can sense. And the last time you came to the class, there was some sort of transfiguration that was going on. So at different times, we could physically see Master Chou there. And radio is a wonderful medium, of course, but you kind of lose the visual, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but I think actually, if people are unfamiliar with this, the voice, the sound is a really nice place to start because it's just a lovely introduction to him. And then if they want to come and see him live, literally live, it's an odd word, want to actually come and physically see, then they can see the next layer of it, which is the physicality of it, because he is very physical. I mean, my face does change at a muscular level, the mannerisms, the body language, all of that is his. So there is a distinct shift between the two of us, and even more so with the Oracle, because that's a different kettle of fish entirely. But the voice is just, it's a nice, comfortable way for people to experience something different.
Yeah, yes, it is. And again, a nice introduction. I know that you teach trance and that you also teach, as we've said, at the College of Psychic Studies. Have you any workshops that are coming up soon that people can look up?
Well, yeah, anyone in London or the UK who can come to the college. There is a workshop in November on the 12th, which is the art of channeling, where I'll be looking at channeling as a specific mechanic, a method in its own right, whether that's spoken, written, or drawn. So we'll look at all the different ways spirit can communicate at that level, which is lighter than trance, but deeper than mental mediumship. It kind of sits in the middle. The other thing I have on in November is actually an evening with Master Chou. So if anyone in the UK or London particularly was listening and would now like to see it, then we're doing an evening of Ask Master Chou a Question at the college on the 4th of November. So similar sort of format, ask him a question, but literally physically you'll be in the room with him and he'll engage with the audience. And I'm hoping on the night we'll get questions, but also people might throw topics at him to discuss rather than just questions. So it should be a fun evening if people are around and want to book for that.
Yeah, and again, people can see the link to my page either on my website www.leo-bonomo.com or on Facebook. They can find the link to your page, which is www.voice. Is it Voices or Voice of Spirit?
Yes.
I'm
plural. You're singular.
Okay, voicesofspirit.com.
.co.uk.
I'm sorry, .co.uk. So if you're interested, and I'm sure you are, do have a look at Sarah's site. I know that you do Skype readings and some phone readings, and it's there that people can get a more personal reading, can't they? Something more in depth.
Yeah, and it's very much about looking at you, what's going on in your life, repeating patterns, if you're feeling blocked or stuck. As I say, it's not proof of survival, it's not predicting your future, it's very much guidance about what you need to be doing in your life now. And in fact,
It'll be a pleasure again any time. And thank you and God bless. Take care.
God bless.